Hey guys, and welcome to my QBD guide. So I did make one of these guides like over a year ago, and I feel like I should revisit this guide because my general strategies on killing QBD have changed. New gear has come out, and I feel like I'm much better at PVM since I made that video. Now in this video, I'm going to go over all three styles in terms of gear and inventory, but when I'm actually killing QBD, I'm going to be going over the ranged kills. They're all the same strategy. There really isn't that big of a difference. I just prefer ranged, so I decided to do it on that combat style. But just remember, you can, do the exact same strategy with mage and melee if you know the general abilities. So let's go into the guide. So first up, the stats and stuff of QBD. You're not going to need to know the general information on there, but just know that QBD does not have a weakness, and the charms are kind of bad, and the total experience you're going to get per kill is around 5,000 experience, plus about 1,700 Slayer if you're on a Slayer task. Now for the money per hour, this is why people QBD. You make anywhere from 3 to 6 mil an hour depending on how many kills per hour that you do. To find out how much money you're going to make on average, just take your amount of kills per hour that you do and then times it by 250,000, because that's about average what you're going to get per QBD kill on the long run. Now I do about 25 per hour. You might do a little bit faster if you're on task or something like that. And that's about 6.2 mil an hour, and that's me, max player. And now if you do a lot less kills per hour, like let's say your kills are 3 to 4 minutes, you have to bank a lot, that's where you're going to be making 3 mil an hour. But if you think about it, if you are that low of a level or that slow, 3 mil an hour is probably good for you. So QBD is very consistent, and you're going to make a lot of money for your level. Now for the experience, it's anywhere from like 70k to 140k, depending on how many kills you get, but it really is terrible. Do not go here for experience, it's just for the money. And now for recommendations and requirements for QBD. So first of all, there are 2 requirements to do QBD. You need to do the Song from the Depths quest, and you also need 60 summoning to enter her lair. With that out of the way, I recommend having at least 95 prayer. I know that's a really high level requirement, but you can easily do this in 70 prayer or whatever for the piety and the other range and mage prayer equivalents. But with Soul Split, it's very good here. Soul Split is very, very good here, and it's really going to help your kills. If you're going to have Soul Split, I recommend having Turmoil as well, or you won't get as fast kills. Soul Split is kind of worthless that way, so I just recommend having 95. If you don't, it's not a game breaker, but it is definitely a game changer. Now for Herblore, I recommend having 85 plus, just so you can have super anti-fires. If you do not, you're going to have to use a Dragonfire Shield and regular anti-fires, and that will slow down your kills significantly. So just try to get 85 Herblore before you go here. You don't necessarily need extremes, they just speed up your kills a lot. And by all means, if you do have super anti-fires, you can probably boost up to make a few extremes. Now for summoning, I just recommend 67 plus on top of the 60 requirement, because then you can use a Tortoise. And then further, I would say use the Unicorn if you have that, use the Yak if you have that, and if you are level 99 summoning, use the Steel Titan. It really speeds up the kills. You're going to have shorter trips, but your kills are going to be much faster. And for the last recommendation, I just recommend High Combat, which is kind of ambiguous, but I would say probably 80 plus stats. Just have at least tier 80 weaponry, and you should be able to get some kills. But of course, higher combat is just going to be faster and easier kills for you. Now I'm going to go over every single gear set of, melee, ranged, and mage, because they're all pretty viable here. Melee is probably the least viable, just because you have to run around a lot, and you're more susceptible to the special attacks, but overall it does have pretty speedy kills. And first of all, for the headpiece, use a Slayer helm if you are on task. Definitely use that. Do not use Void if you're on a Slayer task, obviously, but if you are off task, use Void all the way. You will have much less defense, but your kills are going to be much quicker. Now for the amulet, I would recommend the Dragon Rider amulet just because it has a great prayer bonus and it has pretty decent stats. Otherwise, Blood Necklace does not work here, and if you do not have the Dragon Rider, just go down to maybe a Whisper or a Fury. And for the ring, if you have the Asylum's ring, definitely use it, it's very good. And if you don't have that, use a Ring of Vigor, and you get that from Dungeoneering. It's 50k tokens, and it's very good because every time you use an ultimate, you only use 90% of the adrenaline instead of 100%. So it really conserves your adrenaline, and you can use more thresholds. As for the cape, use your best one. It doesn't really matter. For aura, I would recommend using Vampirism, Penance, Reverence, or even the combat style specific auras. It's really up to you. And then for weapons, obviously use Drygors if you have them, and if you don't, use Chaotix. And if you don't, I really wouldn't melee. Now for the magic gear, it's pretty much the same thing. Use Void if you have it, Slayer Helm if you have it, on task. Same amulet, same ring, same cape pretty much. Everything's pretty much the same, but for weapons on mage, I'd recommend using a Noxious Staff if you have it. Use Seismics if you have it, but if you have those, you probably don't need a guide. And if you have the Attuned Crystal, definitely use that because that's also level 85. And then Chaotic if you do not have either of those. You can also use Virtus weaponry, and you can also use the new level 85 weaponry from Lava Strike Worms, but obviously it's pretty expensive, so I doubt everyone has that. Now for the final gear set, which is range, obviously it's about the same thing on everything else. Just for the weaponry, use your Ascensions if you have it. If you don't have Ascensions, use your Noxious Bow. If you don't have that either, use a Royal Crossbow or a Chaotic Crossbow. It really doesn't matter, or I mean a Chaotic Crossbow and Offhand. They're all really good, and of course the Zerite Bow is also good as well. Just remember, if you don't have tier 80 weaponry on the minimum, you're not going to get that much money per hour here, and it's not worth it. So here are the inventories. They're pretty much all the same, but the ability bars are going to be different. And yeah, I would just recommend bringing your overloads, your supersets, your extremes, whatever you got. Bring a prayer renewal as well. Bring anti-fires. You're going to definitely need those. I bring super, obviously. And then bring prayer potions or restore pots, depending on what you use, and obviously some food. Now optionally, bring your Steel Titan or your Yak or whatever pouch you're doing, including its scrolls. I have them in my Steel Titan, so it's not in the inventory. Bring adrenaline pots, that really helps when you use your ultimates. A Captain's Log is very good to teleport to QBD pretty quickly, and a Sign of Life is also very good just in case you get screwed over. Now for the magic inventory, it's pretty much the same thing other than the runes. Do not forget those, and of course the ability bar is different. And finally, here is the ranged inventory, and the ability bar is the only thing that's different. So copy it if you need an ability bar. You don't need those defensives, but it's just good to have for general PVM. And that was the gear and the inventory guide for QBD. Let's go into actually killing it, and hopefully my strategy can help you get a kill or speed up your kills per hour. Alright, so now how to actually get a kill. I'm going to be using range just because I prefer that. So on phase 1, just build up your adrenaline. You don't necessarily need a threshold on this phase, it's pretty quick. But I do use a snapshot every now and then to speed it up. But for this phase, it's just to build your adrenaline for the later phases. Once you're done, turn off the pillar in the middle, and you're on phase 2. Now for this phase, just use your thresholds and try to kill it as quickly as possible. Now phase 2 is pretty easy. There's only 2 extra attacks that it does. It does a fire breath, which creates a wave of fire that you just need to dodge. There's 3 locations that the fire can have an opening, and if you can't make it to the edge or don't want to sacrifice DPS, just run through it right when it's about to hit you, and during that tick, if you do it perfectly, you won't get damaged, and if you do it a little bit wrong, you'll only get damaged 1 hit instead of 2. QBD can also spawn Tortured Souls during this phase, which when they spawn, when they say their message, click on the opposite side of them during that tick, and the attack that they do will spawn and hit them instead of you. You can always just tank that hit if there's only 1 or 2 Tortured Souls, because if you're in the middle of a channel, you don't want to cancel that and slow down the kill. Now that's basically phase 2. Make sure to be pretty close to 100% adrenaline or 100% adrenaline when you start the next phase, because you're going to use an ultimate. Now when running to the pillar to turn it off on this phase and the next phase, you can use Anticipation or Freedom while running, and you will gain 8% adrenaline. It's very good to conserve your adrenaline. And on the start of phase 3, use your ultimate, whatever it is, Death Swiftness, Sunshine, Metamorphosis, or Berserk, and use your adrenaline pot if you have it, mow down QBD, and on this phase it should be pretty quick. When it spawns the fire waves and the Tortured Souls, you're going to get an extra soul and an extra fire wave, so just be wary. Try to finish this phase pretty quick. Once you're done with this phase, you should still have a lot of time on your ultimate. Turn off the pillar and start phase 4. Now for the strategy of phase 4, just use your remaining ultimate that you had from the earlier phase and finish QBD with your thresholds, and hopefully you can get the kill done before any of the special attacks spawn. Now for the Tortured Souls that she spawns on this phase, when she spawns them, they spawn 4 of them, so it is a problem sometimes. That's 4,000 damage if you tank every hit, and if anything, just run behind the grotworms so they can tank some of it. If not, just tank all of the hits and heal up. It's not really that big of a deal. And if you do have Tortured Souls on this phase, even if they're from earlier phases, just be wary. They might go to the edges of the map, and when they start chanting, that means they're going to do a time stop. So kill those ones that are chanting on the edge so they do not freeze your screen and you might die from a special attack from QBD. Just take them out and you'll be fine. Now for the final attack that QBD can do on this phase, it'll say in the chat box, QBD is breathing extremely hot flames. When that happens, run to the edge of the map on the east or the west side, and you will be hit for only 750 damage rather than 1950. And she does it 3 attacks. It's pretty much unavoidable. You can just lessen it by going to the side. Now QBD can do 2 different things during the kills that might either speed up your kill or slow down your kill depending on what style you're using. Now she can turn her skin into like a blue crystal and she'll be really bright blue. It's pretty hard to miss. And when that happens, your melee and your ranged attacks hit 25% more on her, but your mage attacks hit 25% less. So if you're maging, you're gonna hit less, but if you're meleeing or ranging, you hit much more. And likewise, she can also turn her skin into a harder carapace, and then your magic attacks will hit much more, which is like about 25%, and your melee and range will hit much less. So when those happens, your kills can get, you know, just slower or faster, and you really can't do much about those things. You could bring switches if it really bothers you, but I do not recommend it. It's not worth the effort. So that's pretty much how to kill QBD. I hope it was helpful for you. But if you're still struggling on them, just drop a comment and I can maybe answer your questions. But either way, I really hope that this guide helped you get a kill or maybe even increase your kills per hour if you're struggling on speed. Now that's pretty much the kill. There's really no other general strategy other than that. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. If you know the attacks and know what to do and know how to build adrenaline, know how to conserve your adrenaline, and use thresholds at the right time, you're gonna get kills, you're gonna get them consistently, and you're gonna get really fast kills if you have a nice strategy down. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good day.